Howdy there! Welcome back to Channel Frederator. Ready to hop in the school bus with Miss Crabtree and head on down to South Park? Maybe even have yourself a time. Outstanding. We're trying out something a little different this time around. We'll be diving into the very first season of the legendary animated series South Park, breaking down each episode until we make it to the season finale. What a fun way to reminisce on days gone by. Memories. Let's get started. Cartman gets an anal probe. The construction paper animation that started it all. Wild how far they've come. The episode begins with Cartman telling his pals all about the dream he had last night, featuring aliens, abduction, and the titular anal probe. The other boys try to convince him that he was actually abducted and probed, but he thinks they're just trying to scare him. Chef arrives wearing an alien-themed t-shirt and asks if anyone saw the spaceship, confirming Cartman's dream. Miss Crabtree pulls up in the bus, yelling at the boys to board, and of course, to sit down and shut up. While riding to school, they see Kyle's little brother Ike being held by two aliens. Kyle tries to get Miss Crabtree to stop the bus, but she is on a roll. Elsewhere, some mutilated cows are discovered on Bill Dankin's farm, and Officer Barbrady is looking into it. He doesn't seem to notice the visitor trying to lure cows away from the field though. See, Barbrady isn't a great cop. He thinks cows turning inside out is totally normal and that helicopters are pigeons. At school, Kyle worries about his little brother being abducted by aliens and asks to leave class to go find him. Mr. Garrison delegates his response to Mr. Hat, who says, "You go to hell and you die." About what you'd expect from a third grade teacher. Cartman laughs and farts fire at Pip, beginning a series of fiery farts that last throughout the day. During lunch, Wendy Testaburger makes Stan so nervous that he throws up all over her as Cartman continues with his flame-fueled flatulence. Kyle asks Chef for advice about his brother and receives an inexplicable performance of a smooth and sexy tune. When Chef finds out that Kyle's little brother has actually been taken, however, he sends the lads out to find him. They head out after Chef pulls the fire alarm, but not before a little robot pops out of Cartman's butt for a second. After insisting that he hasn't been probed and isn't under alien mind control, Cartman gives an impromptu performance of "I Love to Singa," more or less proving the opposite. Just then, a spaceship appears and Kyle demands that they return his brother. In response, they blast Kenny, who appears to be dead. Thus begins the long and storied history of the catchphrase, "Oh my god, they killed Kenny, you bastards." However, this first one, he wasn't actually dead yet. Well, not right away. He's soon after trampled by a herd of cows and then finally run over by Officer Barbrady, which finally does him in. You bastards indeed. This is still not enough to get Cartman to admit that aliens are real, and he leaves with a "Screw you guys, I'm going home." Stan meets up with Wendy at Stark's Pond, vomiting the entire time, and Kyle gets a good idea from her. Use Cartman as bait. They string Fatso up on a tree and they wait. Eventually, he farts more fire and an enormous satellite dish unfolds from his butt. The alien spaceship returns with Ike in tow, who does his best impression of David Caruso's career and leaps to the ground. The aliens have a quick chat with the cows, who they have deemed the most intelligent creatures on Earth, and then tell them that the whole inside-out thing was Carl's fault. He's new. The visitors give the cows their singing device, which they then use on Officer Barbrady. The next day, Cartman falls from the sky down to the bus stop with one red eye. He tells Kyle and Stan about a dream he had where Scott Baio gave him pink eye on the alien ship. Not too shabby for a paper-based pilot, eh? You can tell that there was something special going on from the very beginning, and folks back in 1997 knew that this was gonna be a good time. I doubt they knew exactly how long the good time was gonna be though, because boy, South Park's been running for a while. On to episode 2. Weight Gain 4000. This is where the celebrity lampooning that South Park is so well known for really kicks off. It's hard to imagine the show without it. It's announced that Kathie Lee Gifford will be coming to South Park to present Cartman with an award for winning the Save Our Fragile Planet essay contest. Wendy's pissed because she thinks he cheated, and the whole town enters a frenzy to prepare for Kathie Lee's arrival. Mayor McDaniels organizes an event to showcase the town, enlisting Chef to sing and the children to put on a play about Indians and pioneers. Mr. Garrison is tasked with directing this play, but Mr. Hat wants to kill Kathie Lee for upstaging him and Garrison when they were kids. The play ends up being historically accurate. Extreme violence and all. The townspeople and the mayor aren't too happy with this, claiming that Kathie Lee Gifford wouldn't like it. Mr. Garrison responds with "To hell with Kathie Lee Gifford" and is fired as a result. With that, he and Mr. Hat are now ready to actually assassinate Kathie Lee. Meanwhile, Mayor McDaniels encourages Cartman to get in shape for the play, so Cartman orders some Weight Gain 4000, a bodybuilding supplement. He doesn't exercise while taking it though, and gains tons of weight. Wendy discovers that Cartman's essay was just a copy of Thoreau's Walden with Cartman's name written on it. Kathie Lee Gifford arrives in her bulletproof bubble and hears Chef's lovemaking-inspired song. Wendy and Stan find Mr. Garrison and Mr. Hat preparing to assassinate Kathie Lee and almost talk them down, but Stan reminds them of the upstaging, prompting Mr. Hat to shoot. Thankfully, Cartman's massive weight gain caused the stage to collapse just as this happened, saving Kathie Lee but putting Kenny right in the path of the shot. He ends up impaled on a flagpole. The celebrity guest is promptly removed from the scene by her bodyguards. Wendy exposes Cartman's plagiarism, but nobody really cares now that Kathie Lee is gone. Mr. Garrison and Mr. Hat end up in the mental hospital, Cartman appears on Geraldo, and Chef actually manages to make love to Kathie Lee Gifford, although her demands are beyond what he expected, and probably what he's capable of. Volcano. The first season of any show is a great opportunity to introduce some long-standing characters. Here we meet Stan's uncle Jimbo and his voice box using pal Ned, as well as a legendary creature. I kinda wish Scuzzlebutt stuck around a little longer. Uncle Jimbo and his war buddy Ned take the boys hunting in the mountains, where they quickly reveal that their idea of hunting is a little unconventional. After handing the lads guns, beers, and cigarettes, they begin blasting every living creature around with military-grade weapons, all while yelling, "It's coming right for us!" in order to claim self-defense. Stan doesn't take too well to hunting, although Kenny seems to be a natural, drinking gasoline straight from the can. Soon, the mountain starts to rumble, but Jimbo and Ned ignore it. Randy, back in town, uses his geology skills to find out that the mountain is set to erupt. That night, Cartman tells the story of Scuzzlebutt, a mountain-dwelling, basket-weaving killer creature that thirsts for blood and steals stuff to add to its body, like celery and Patrick Duffy. The others don't believe him, so he sneaks off and dresses up like the monster to scare them. Unfortunately, Jimbo and Ned think that Scuzzlebutt is real and want to be famous for shooting him. After a brief hunt, Cartman reveals that he's not actually Scuzzlebutt. Around this time, the townspeople are searching for the hunting party and digging trenches to divert the flow of lava. When the mountain finally erupts, the hunting party gets trapped by a trench. Thankfully, the real Scuzzlebutt shows up and saves them with his basket-weaving skills. The lava flows away from South Park, but ends up destroying Denver. Oh well. Stan then proves that he can hunt by killing Scuzzlebutt, but Jimbo's not impressed. In the end, the boys decide that hunting sucks. Big Gay Al's Big Gay Boat Ride. While the boys discuss the toughest dogs in South Park, Stan's dog Sparky starts humping another dog, Sylvester, earning him the title of gay homosexual. At football practice, Jimbo and Ned start looking for things to bet on. They bet $500 on the South Park Cows to cover the spread, and discover that John Stamos' brother Richard will be singing the song "Lovin' You" at halftime. After practice, Sparky mounts another dog, eliciting worry in Stan. The next day, Stan asks Mr. Garrison what a homosexual is. Mr. Garrison, in an effort to mask his own sexuality, dramatically claims that they are evil. Stan attempts to make Sparky more masculine by introducing him to Fifi, the female poodle, but Sparky simply steals her diamond-encrusted collar. Stan then calls up Jesus on the Jesus and Pals show to ask about homosexuality, but doesn't get an answer. Frustrated, he rants about wanting a butch dog and causes Sparky to run away to Big Gay Al's Big Gay Animal Sanctuary. Jimbo and Ned enlist the help of an explosives expert to blow up the other team when Richard Stamos hits the high F in "Lovin' You." Too bad Richard Stamos isn't as talented as his brother. He fails to hit the high note, leaving Jimbo and Ned furious. Stan visits the animal sanctuary and learns about homosexuality from Big Gay Al, eventually accepting his dog's homosexuality. Stan returns to the football game and throws a touchdown pass, covering the spread. In his post-game interview, he tells folks about the Big Gay Animal Sanctuary and that it's okay to be gay. He brings everyone there, but the sanctuary is missing. Everyone's runaway pets come home though. Big Gay Al thanks Stan and then disappears. Richard Stamos stuck around to prove that he could hit that note and blows up the Cowboys mascot. An elephant makes love to a pig. Do not mistake this episode for the series of children's books by Mo Williams. Sure, there's an elephant and a pig, but these capers are not family friendly. Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it, you know? Stan is getting beat up by his sister Shelly at home, who's given him a black eye. Nobody seems to care though, as Kyle's mom won't let him keep his new pet elephant in the house. They learn about genetic engineering at school, leading to Kyle suggesting that he splice his elephant with Cartman's pot-bellied pig. This leads Terrence to bet that he can clone a human before Kyle can make a pot-bellied elephant. Mr. Garrison is almost sympathetic to Stan's black eye until he learns that it's from Shelly. Stop being a pansy, Stan. At home, Stan is tossed out the window by Shelly, landing next to his pals. They all head to the South Park Genetic Engineering Ranch, meeting Dr. Mephisto. He shows off his multi-assed animals along with some other wild hybrids. However, he also tells them that pig and elephant DNA just will not splice and steals some of Stan's blood. Terrence and his crew have already cloned a foot by the next day, so the boys ask Chef for advice. He tells them that animals have to make sweet love to breed, so that night the boys try to get the animals to breed. At first, it doesn't work, but Chef arrives to sing some Elton John, prompting a whole lot of lovemaking all across town. Back at Mephisto's ranch, the good doctor is revealed to be Terrence's dad and completes his clone of Stan. The clone only has one ass, however, and it escapes to rampage throughout town. Stan and the boys convince this big-headed clone to beat up on Shelly, which it does after destroying the house and killing Kenny. Mephisto arrives and kills the clone, but doesn't explain what happened to anybody else. This leaves Stan in a bit of a tight spot, and everyone thinks that it was actually him. Shelly volunteers as tribute, however, and the townspeople believe her. She still beats up on Stan, though. Terrence brings a 5-assed monkey to school, but Cartman's pig gives birth to a pot-bellied pig that looks a whole lot like Mr. Garrison, which wins first prize. That'll do, pig. Interestingly enough, this episode has been altered since it first aired. The initial airing featured a scene where Shelly kept lighting Stan on fire and then putting him out with water. The scene was removed shortly thereafter, as Comedy Central was afraid they'd court controversy after Beavis and Butthead was blamed for a young boy lighting his trailer on fire, killing his sister. The edited episode just has Stan sitting in a puddle, claiming that someday he'd be bigger and stronger. This confused even Matt and Trey during the director's commentary, as they couldn't remember why he was suddenly in a puddle. These days, in the HD re-releases, the puddle is actually removed entirely. Death. Ah, Sheila Brovlovsky, the original Karen. Watch and learn as history's made. Stan's grandpa, Marvin Marsh, isn't enjoying himself at his 102nd birthday, and asks Stan to shoot him following a failed attempt to do it himself. Stan isn't really one for violence, as evidenced by the events of Volcano, but he also just doesn't want to get in trouble. Marvin claims that he shot his own grandfather when he was Stan's age. Meanwhile, Kyle and Ike are watching Terrence and Philip, but their mother comes in and takes exception to the on-screen shenanigans. She rallies the parents of South Park and leads a boycott of the show in front of the Cartoon Central HQ in New York City. They all head down, unaware that they've been infected by Kenny's explosive diarrhea. As they boycott, stinking up the streets and chuckling at the real-life potty humor, Marvin continues to try to get Stan to kill him through increasingly cartoonish schemes. Shelly walks in on one of these and stops Stan from finishing him off, although this somehow gets blamed on the influence of Terrence and Philip as well. Marvin shows Stan what it's like to live like him by trapping him in a room playing nothing but Enya. This is enough to convince the boys to finish him off. As they hang a cow from a tree in order to crush him, Death shows up. Unfortunately for Marvin, Death is here not for him, but for Kenny. Back in New York, the executives at Cartoon Central finally give in to the boycott demands, although this decision is largely based on the stinking rancid feces that came along with the boycott. The Terrence and Philip show is cancelled. The boys and Death stop their chase to watch the show get cancelled from the window of a TV store, and Death kills Kenny. Marvin wants to die as well, but the ghost of his grandpa shows up and tells Marvin that it was wrong to ask him to kill him, and now he's stuck in limbo. He decides to die by natural causes, which to him means getting eaten by a lion. The parents come home to watch the show replacing Terrence and Philip. She's the sheriff, and they find this to be offensive as well. The boys consider doing drugs and watching pornography to deal with the boredom caused by Terrence and Philip's cancellation. Seems like a reasonable stopgap. Pink eye. There's nothing quite like a Halloween episode, eh? Especially when there's an actual zombie outbreak. Just make sure to wash your pillowcases, okay? After getting crushed by the MIR space station, Kenny is accidentally turned into a zombie thanks to a Worcestershire sauce mix-up. The next day is Halloween though, so nobody really notices. Stan dresses up as Raggedy Andy, which is supposed to be a couple's costume with Wendy, but she ends up dressing as Chewbacca. Kyle is also Chewbacca, and Cartman is Adolf Hitler. Actually, everybody at school is dressed up as Chewbacca, except for Marilyn Monroe, Mr. Garrison. Back at the lab, all the folks Kenny bit are turning into zombies, but the doctor says it's just pink eye. The zombie virus spreads. Wendy wins first prize in the costume contest, donating her candy prize to starving children in Nairobi. Kenny gets second place for his Edward James Olmos costume, and Stan wins worst costume ever for his stupid clown thing. The zombies keep on coming, but everybody just thinks it's pink eye. The boys go trick-or-treating that night, with Stan rejecting Wendy's apology, and eventually Chef figures out that it isn't just pink eye. Nobody believes him though. Well, the boys do, but Chef gets turned pretty quickly after that. Thankfully, the boys find the bottle of Worcestershire sauce at the morgue, along with an issue of Crack Whore Monthly featuring Cartman's mom, and Kyle calls the hotline number on the bottle. The Brit on the other end tells him not to kill zombies left and right, but instead find the original zombie and kill it. Thus, Kyle chops Kenny in half with a chainsaw, returning the townspeople back to normal. Cartman cries at Kenny's grave, but gets over it pretty quick, and Stan and Kyle want to go back to Cartman's to find more dirty pictures of his mom. Kenny raises from the dead, only to be crushed by a falling tombstone, and then a jet. Starvin' Marvin. Those sappy commercials asking you to sponsor something really tug at the heartstrings, don't they? Or they offer you a cool watch. Guess which strategy worked on the boys? In a bid to get a free digital watch after watching a Sally Struthers commercial, the boys accidentally adopt a starving Ethiopian who is actually sent to South Park as opposed to simply being sponsored remotely. Before the child arrives, a pack of wild, genetically modified turkeys attack the classroom, interrupting the Thanksgiving food drive. When Starvin' Marvin shows up, the boys quickly befriend him and agree that he'll rotate between their homes, besides Kenny because he's poor. The boys' families, except Kenny's once again, all head out to King Jimmy's All-You-Can-Eat Buffet, where Cartman displays his American decadence to Marvin. The canned food drive doesn't go that well, with only a few cans of creamed corn being donated. The boys bring Marvin to school for show and tell, and Mr. Garrison reports them to the Red Cross. Dr. Mephisto shows Chef that the turkeys are growing exponentially. When the Secret Service arrives to take Marvin home, he points to Cartman, who's promptly taken away instead of him. With Cartman gone, Marvin adopts his mannerisms. During the food drive event, a horde of turkeys shows up to attack everyone. Kenny is put into the Grabalux and manages to snag a can of string beans. The turkeys return, this time looking extra mutant. The townspeople manage to kill all the turkeys, although Kenny dies in the process. Cartman, now in Ethiopia, discovers that Sally Struthers is hoarding all the food and leads the locals in revolution. In the end, Marvin and Cartman are swapped, with Marvin bringing all the dead turkeys to feed his people. Kenny's family can't open their string beans because they do not have a can opener. Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh. An icon is born. God, Mr. Hanky's song has to be one of the catchiest Christmas jingles out there. Too bad he smells like crap, or he could be a much bigger player at Christmas time. Kyle's mother, incensed at her son playing the role of Joseph in the school's nativity play, convinces the town to essentially remove anything and everything that could offend anyone from the town's holiday decorations, which basically means everything. Kyle, lonely and upset, takes solace in the company of Mr. Hanky, the Christmas Pooh. He tries to convince the town that the Pooh is actually sentient and magical, which gets him committed. With all holiday elements stripped from the pageant, the whole thing kinda sucks, leading to everyone blaming each other and a big ol' brawl breaking out. Nothing quite says Christmas time than everyone getting into a big ol' fist fight, am I right? When everything seems doomed, Mr. Hanky finally reveals himself and brings the spirit of Christmas back to South Park, among other smells and sights. Kyle is vindicated and released, and everyone has a great old time. Even Kenny survives, although poor Jesus is left celebrating his birthday all alone. Damien. Our first viewing of Satan in South Park. Many more to come, that's for sure. As Cartman distributes birthday invites, Mr. Garrison introduces a new kid in class, Damien Thorne. He claims to be from the 7th level of hell and welcomes in the new reign of Satan. Cartman antagonizes him, so Damien uses his hell powers to toss Cartman's desk out the window. At lunch, the kids start to realize that Cartman has labeled each individual with the gift he expects that attendee to buy him. He's looking for the entire Mega Man set, baby. He wants that Mega Man. Damien turns Kenny into a platypus and annihilates the lunchroom, demanding that Jesus be brought to him. The boys go and find Mr. Christ and bring him back to the schoolyard. There, Satan speaks through Damien, arranging the final battle between good and evil. Of course, Jimbo then leads the charge to his bookie. The fight is scheduled on Cartman's birthday and will be broadcast on pay-per-view for $49.95. Naturally, Cartman is pissed. Jesus and Satan do a weigh-in, and Jesus is a lot smaller than Satan. Uh-oh. The boys enlist Chef to help train Jesus, but Chef just knocks him out. At Cartman's birthday, Damien impresses everyone by blowing up Pip, but Cartman throws a hissy fit and ends the celebration when Kyle gifts him a game instead of a red Mega Man. This is quickly forgotten when the greatest fight of all time begins. Satan has the clear advantage, throwing punch after punch at humanity's savior. Stan steps in to give Jesus a figure skating-inspired pep talk, and when Jesus throws his first punch, Satan takes a dive. Turns out the Prince of Darkness was the only person to bet on Jesus, all part of an elaborate scam to make a bunch of money and buy some real estate. Jesus forgives the town, because of course he does, and Damien heads on back to hell. Tom's rhinoplasty. I always love it when the animators just decide to pop a literal photo in place of someone's head in South Park. It always looks so out of place, but so hilarious. Keep an eye out for handsome Mr. Garrison here. Mr. Garrison leaves to get a rhinoplasty, and Miss Ellen arrives as the substitute teacher. All the boys in class are immediately enamored, making Wendy jealous. Chef tries to set up a date with Miss Ellen, only to claim that she's a lesbian. Wendy warns Miss Ellen not to f with her. The boys try literally licking carpet and eating boxes for their chance to be with their teacher, but to no avail. Wendy and Bebe try to win the boys back with a Grease-inspired leather ensemble, but for whatever reason, Miss Ellen shows up in a similar outfit. Miss Ellen then announces that the winner of the spelling test will get to go to dinner with her. Meanwhile, Mr. Garrison finishes up his procedure and is now so very handsome. In fact, he decides to give up on being a teacher, opting to model, hang out, and screw chicks instead. This makes Miss Ellen the permanent teacher. Stan wins the spelling test, meaning that he's the one going to dinner. Wendy's grandmother also dies, which is the last straw. Wendy goes insane. The next day, a bunch of Iraqi men break in and accuse Miss Ellen of sleeping with their leader. She steals one of their swords, accidentally kills Kenny, and is taken into their custody. Stan becomes Wendy's boyfriend once again. At a pool party at Wendy's house, she pays off the Iraqi men and watches through a pinhole projector as Miss Ellen is launched into the sun. Kyle is stunned to find out that she was behind the whole thing, proving exactly why one should not f*** with Wendy Testaburger. Mecha Streisand. If you're not doing a Godzilla episode when making animated television, then what are you doing? Everybody loves a good kaiju fight, and it's even funnier when you pick random celebrities as your monster stand-ins. Cartman finds a weird stone triangle during a fossil dig and throws it away. Kyle picks it up and later discovers that it's rare and valuable. Cartman, level-headed as always, breaks into Kyle's room to steal it, and Kyle just lets him to be done with it. Soon, Leonard Maltin arrives in South Park and asks Chef if anyone's seen Barbara Streisand. Apparently, the triangle is actually the Triangle of Zinthar, half of the Diamond of Pentheos. She has the other half, and if she gets both together, she will become the most evil and dangerous creature alive. Mecha Streisand. A disguised Streisand finds the boys and offers to pay them for the triangle. Stan, Kyle, and Kenny are nervous, but Cartman is more than happy to go along with her because strangers aren't dangerous if there's money involved. She brings them to her mountain mansion and tortures them until they give up the triangle. With both sides together, she transforms into Mecha Streisand, beginning a giant kaiju battle between her, Leonard Maltin, Sidney Poitier, and Robert Smith. At some point, Kenny is killed by a tetherball. What a way to go during a kaiju battle. None of the transformed celebrities can take down Mecha Streisand until Robert Smith manages to punch the Diamond of Pentheos out of her. He then tosses her into outer space and she explodes. The town, including Jesus, heralds him as a savior, and Smith walks off into the sunset. The boys decide the diamond is too dangerous to keep around, so they separate the pieces. However, Ike manages to find it, becoming Mecha Ike. Cartman's mom is a dirty slut. And here we go, season finale. Here we're supposed to find out who Cartman's real dad is, and, well, we largely just find out how truly promiscuous his mom is. I guess the cover spread for Crack Whore magazine wasn't quite enough. After the boys see Cartman alone in his yard playing with dolls, Cartman embarks on a quest to find his father. He asks his mom about it, who says that Chief Running Water is his dad. He puts on a Native American costume and confronts Running Water, who tells him that he's not his dad, his mom is just a slut. Kenny, Kyle, and Stan find out about America's Stupidest Home Videos and the cash prize of $10,000, and decide to enter the video of Cartman's tea party. Cartman finds out that Chef could be his dad, so he dresses up as an African American to go and find out if this is true. Apparently, Chef and Leanne only kiss, though. Oh, and Kenny's killed by a train. Chef tells Cartman that the last man Leanne slept with that night was Mr. Garrison, horrifying Cartman. However, when he confronts Garrison at the bar, he discovers that pretty much everyone in the bar has slept with Leanne. His dad could be anyone. He resolves to get a DNA test done, but it'll cost him $3,000. The boys tell him that they have a way to get the money, but they don't want to tell him how. He finds out that they entered his tea party video and gets pretty mad, and then they lose to a video of Kenny getting hit by a train. However, they do win a consolation prize of $3,000. Cartman takes this down to the genetic engineering ranch along with his mother and all his potential fathers, but an announcer cuts everyone off, claiming that his father would be revealed in the next episode, 4 weeks later. And that, my friends, is the complete Season 1 recap of South Park. How about that, eh? Some serious stone cold classics in this season. Who could have anticipated just how huge South Park would become? Such humble beginnings. So, what did you think of the video? Did it bring the memories flooding back? What's your favorite moment in Season 1? I personally hum the Mr. Hanky song everywhere I go. Make sure you let us know down in the comments and subscribe to Channel Frederator for more like this. Thanks for watching, and remember, Frederator loves you.